to this video. In this episode, we are going to look at how we can animate a lower third. We saw in the last video how to create a lower third. Now we're going to animate it and make sure that it looks smooth using our easing in and easing out so that it's not all PowerPointy and gross. With that, let's get started.
I want to quickly recap how we can create a lower third. So here we have Mr. Yost. I'm going to create a lower third. Again, click on the type tool and have it slide in from over here. I type his name, Mr. Yost. And then I want to click on the selection tool. A lot of times, if you don't click on selection tool and then you start doing other things, you get all of these extra layers and letters and what's going on? If I look at my graphics, you see that I've got the layer for Mr. Yost. I've got a layer for V's and B's. I've got another extra layer. All of these are extraneous because I didn't click over to my selection tool. So let's go ahead and delete those. Delete, activate, delete. Now I've just got Mr. Yost. I want to edit that font. So I click Mr. Yost. Let's see, what font do we want to use this time? I like this condensed bold, but I want it to be a little bit larger. So I'm going to grab this little slider, move it up. I think I had it like 206 last time. I don't remember. 206, good enough. Color, don't like that color. I'm going to make it, this one I'm going to make maroonish, and I'll make my background gold. So color maroon. And I want my background rectangle. Again, to make the rectangle, I want to left click on the pen tool, hold down on it to bring up the rectangle tool option, release, and now I'm going to draw my rectangle around Mr. Yost. Remember that my rectangle layer is in front of Mr. Yost, so I want to left click that layer, drag it down, release my mouse. There we go. Well, that's way too large, so I'm going to scale that down some. There we go. My lower third. I want to change the background color. Let's fill that one. Cool. Oh, my Mr. Yost didn't turn. I'm sorry, we'll go back and fix that right now. Click fill color. Why didn't you go maroony? Click OK. And my font. I don't know what happened. I don't know. 206. It's fine, but now my background shape isn't. It's all right. That's why we do this, because this takes time. I'm going to change that. There we go. Do you like it? I don't know. I don't really like that gold color. Let's change that one. Better. Very eye-opening, that's for sure. I want to move the position of my lower third. So make sure that you're on the pen tool. That's the only way that you can grab these. And there, did you see what I did? I grabbed it and I moved just the one because I only have the shape layer active. Undo that. Shift, left click. So I got both of them active now. I can move them together. There we go. Go over there. In the last video, we saw how to fade in and fade out. Well, today I want to animate. The first thing that I want to show you about animating anything in Premiere Pro is the animation happens around these anchor points. Whatever I'm going to ask the animation to do is going to be centered around these anchor points. So I'm going to go ahead and move these anchor points. For the shape layer, I'm going to move it and I'm going to drag it over here and I'm going to set it on the side over here. And if you hold down Control, it'll snap to these lines. So I'm moving it closer, 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 hold down Control, and then it snaps to where I want it, which is that point right in there. Mr. Yost's anchor point, same thing. I'm going to drag that, and I'm going to bring it over close to where I want it, and then snap it in there. So now both the rectangle and the letters are going to be animating from this anchor point from the side there. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a little look. So the first animation that I want to do is have this lower third slide in from the side. So I'm going to move my playhead to the very beginning of my lower third animation. And do you remember the shortcut? Up arrow gets me to the beginning. My lower third is active. And I want to click up here on Effect Controls. The position of my lower third horizontally, I want it to start off the screen. So I'm going to slide that over there. So you can see that my lower third starts off the screen. Slide my playhead forward a little bit, And now, oh, do you see what I forgot to do? I forgot to tell Premiere Pro, pay attention to what I want you to do. No, I don't want to do it there. I want to do it back here. Pay attention, Premiere Pro. You can see my keyframe came into existence. Move my playhead along a little bit. Tell Premiere Pro I want you to do something else. What do I want you to do? I want you to have smoothed my lower third over to there. Let's have a little watch.
This is Mr. Yost. I am also.
All right. So you can see it start to slide in.
This is Mr. Yost.
I don't really like that animation. First off, I think it happens a little bit too slowly. So I'm going to move my keyframe over. And what did I forget to do? I forgot to ease. I don't like linear. Linear is gross. Remember, we right-click on our keyframe, come down here to temporal interpolation, and we're easing out of that first keyframe because we're moving out of that frame and into this last one. So I need to ease in to that. Let's have a little look.
This is Mr. Yost. I am
better, much better. So that's one way that we could animate it in from the side. Let's say that we want to have it drop down at the end. Instead of fading out, we're going to have this lower third fall off the bottom of the screen. So to do that, remember we need to set a keyframe in Premiere Pro that says, hey, stay doing what you were doing. Remember, keyframes, slide in, slide in, slide in. You can see my position is changing. The location of my lower third is changing. Slid in. Now from keyframe 2 to keyframe 3, stay doing what you were doing. My position isn't changing. Now at this keyframe, and remember the shortcut to get to the next keyframe, I'm going to click this little go to next keyframe, click. At this point in time, what I want you to do, Premiere Pro, is begin to move. So I'm going to have the lower third drop to the bottom of the screen, but I'm going to add in a little anticipation. Anticipation is moving, having your animation move the opposite direction to begin with. Imagine somebody was running. Oftentimes they lean back a little bit and then take off running forward. We're going to do that with our animation. So I'm going to have my lower third climb up the screen a little bit, just a little bit, and then I'm going to have it drop off. Let's have a little look at that. Nice. A little anticipatory bounce. I want to make sure that we've got our easing in and easing out. Again, I'm just going to highlight all of them. Click ease in. Click ease out. Let's watch this animation.
This is Mr. Yost. I am also the other teacher. I'm the co-teacher for this film.
Nice. I like the way that looks. All right. That was one animation. Let's look at another way to animate it. In this next example, I want to have the background box and the text animate separately. So I want to scale the background box starting at a scale of 0. And you can see now when I change the scale is changing around the anchor point. And I don't want the anchor point over on the side anymore, so I'm going to have to change that. To change that, I'm going to click on the shape layer and move this anchor point. Where do I want this anchor point? I want this one in the center. So I'm going to hold Control down. I'm just going to center it up. And you can see now when I change the scale, it's scaling from there. Perfect. So you'll note on my timeline, I'm at the end point. This is where I want it to be at the end. I want my scale to be set there, and I want the position of my source text to be there. So pay attention, Premiere Pro. Now, last example, I was working with the whole layer. That's the vector motion. Now I'm working with individual layers, the text layer, the shape layer. So I'm dealing with the shape layer and the scale. And at the beginning, what do I want the scale to be? 0. So now as we watch that,
this is Mr. Yost.
You can see the block scales in from 0, but it's all linear and gross. It's all right. We're going to fix that in a minute. Looking at the text, I want you to be there. What do I want that to do? Well, I want the text to slide in from the side again. So go back to the first frame, take our text position, slide you in. So now when we watch,
this is Mr. Yost.
So I actually want to delay this text slide in until the box has grown. So I'm going to move to this keyframe. And now I'm going to, do you remember the command to get full screen? Tilde. I'm going to hit the tilde button. And what I'm going to do is grab both of these. Click on the first one, drag, 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 and hold down Shift so that it snaps in my timeline. Tilde again gets me out of full screen. Let's have a look to this.
This is Mr. Yost.
Yeah, I like that better. But it's still linear and PowerPointy and gross, and I hate it. So tilde brings up all this. I'm going to grab all these keyframes, ease in, ease out, tilde, back to the beginning. Let's watch that.
This is Mr. Yost.
Nice. To animate out, I'm going to have this lower third shrink down, scale to 0, and look like it's shrinking and fading away. So to do that, I want to come up here and look at the vector motion again. This vector motion is the whole one, and I want it to scale. Oh no, it's not really doing what I want it to do. Why is it scaling there to Mr. Yost? Well, remember that has to do with the anchor point. If I click on the word vector motion, you see my anchor point is right there on Mr. Yost's shoulder, so the lower third is going to shrink down around that anchor point. That is not where I want it to shrink down. I want it to shrink down from the center because I don't want it to fly off into his shoulder. Maybe that's what you do want. I don't know. You want it to zoom out of the screen that way. You can do that. However you want to get rid of your lower thirds. But I want it to shrink from the center. So I'm going to grab my anchor point. I'm going to bring it down here to the center of my square. Now when I shrink, it goes away from where I want it to. All right, so I'm going to tell Premiere Pro to do something. What I want you to do, pay attention and start to shrink. And at the end of my clip, I want you to shrink away to 0. Let's watch that through.
This is Mr. Yost. I am also the other teacher. I'm the co-teacher for this filmmaking.
Okay, a couple of things. Number 1, too slow. Number 2, linear. So I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to make it shrink up a lot faster. Actually move it over there. Highlight them. Ease in. Ease out. Let's watch.
This is Mr. Yost. I am also the other teacher. I'm the co-teacher for this filmmaking class.
Nice. I like that one. Okay, now we've seen a couple different animations. Let's look at another one. In this example, I'm going to have the words Mr. Yost grow up from the ground. So I'm going to wait until after my block has scaled in. I'm at that keyframe when it's scaled in, and now I want to change the way that Mr. Yost's name appears. So to make sure we're dealing with our text layer, and right now our anchor point is scaling from the side. So one thing that I want to look at is if I change the scale, you can see that it grows from there. Maybe that's what you want to happen. It's not really what I want to happen. I want it to grow from the bottom. So I'm going to change my anchor point. And I want it to scale from down here. So now when I scale it, it scales from that point. Maybe you want it to grow from the middle of your block. I don't. I want it to grow from the ground up. So to do that, I really only want to change the vertical scaling. So I need to click Uniform Scale so that I have control over the horizontal and vertical scaling. The horizontal scale stretches it out. The vertical scale makes it grow and shrink. So I want it to start at 0 and then move ahead a couple of frames, move ahead a couple of frames, and then grow to 100. Oh, what did I forget to do? I forgot to tell Premiere Pro to pay attention to what I wanted. Pay attention to what I want, Premiere Pro. Back to my other keyframe. And now I want you to be at 0. It's going to be linear and gross. Just make sure we get rid of that. And now let's have a little listen.
This is Mr. Yost.
Yeah, kind of neat. Maybe you like that. Maybe you want to, let's say instead we wanted it to grow from the side. So let's get rid of the vertical keyframes. Yep. And let's make a horizontal one instead. But we want to change our anchor point. So I want it to move from over here. We're going to have it slide in from the block itself. So I want you to pay attention, Premiere Pro. When do I want you to start? I want you to start at 0. Make it non-linear. Linear is gross. Let's watch this one.
This is Mr. Yost.
Maybe you like that better. And to have this one leave, I'm going to be a little bit goofy. I would never do this in a documentary type film, but I want to show you what rotation does. So let's look at that. I'm going to have this lower third swing down and then fall off the screen. So to accomplish that, I want to undo my scaling because that's how we had it leaving the last time. And I want to change my anchor point. Where do I want my anchor point to be? I want it to be over here. And I'm going to tell Premiere Pro, pay attention to what I want you to do with the rotation. And when we get ahead a couple frames, I want you to have swung down to there. Go ahead a couple more frames. I want you to swung back to here. Go ahead a couple more frames. Back to where I want you to be over here. And I want you to start falling off the screen, so pay attention to the position. And over here, I want you to have swung back a little bit, but off the screen. All right. I have no idea how this is going to look. Let's look.
Co-teacher for this filmmaking class.
It's all still linear, so I want to ease in and ease out. Let's watch that again.
Teacher, I'm the co-teacher for this filmmaking class.
I love it. So there's a little bit of animation for you. You are going to animate your lower thirds some way, not simply fade in and fade out, because I want to make sure that you understand how this stuff works.
So there you have it. We saw several different ways on how we can animate these lower thirds. You're telling the visual story. You get to decide which animation method is the one that you want to use to tell your story. That's all for this episode. We'll see you in the next one.